Tex and Bundy are a charity fundraising team that travel the length and breadth of Australia to help raise funds for prostate cancer, children's hospitals, people in palliative care, organ and tissue donor awareness. Any worthwhile charity we'll get behind.
If you told somebody that you saw a dog on a motorcycle travelling on the freeway at 100 kilometres an hour, and the thing sitting there, they'd almost think, no, it's just not possible. Unless you see it with your own eyes, you just then can appreciate just what it is that they do, and yeah, that it's actually real.
Everywhere you go, people want to talk to him and pat the dog. Riding along the road, there's people hanging out the window of their car taking photos. You pull up at the lights, people stop walking across the crossing and want to pat the dog.
Everybody surrounds them and wants to start taking photos and asking questions. How fast do you go? Where have you come from? Where are you going? Is this a daily thing? Is it for real?
He's just so popular. The whole thing just brings a smile to everybody's face. And there's other guys riding around on motorbikes with their dog. Just don't seem to attract any attention.
Bundy loves a motorcycle, first and foremost. She loves to get on that bike, feel the breeze in her face. We all know why dogs hang their head out the window of a car, because they love it. Well, Bundy can hang her head out at any time from under the fairing and have that wind in her face. She's off to a new adventure every time she hops up on that bike, and I think that's probably why she loves it so much. Bundy's sense of balance is pretty unreal. To sit up on a fuel tank of a bike takes a lot of balance. And I've been into corners pushing reasonably hard, and Bundy's leaning right out over the front of the fairing, you know, out there loving it, and I'm thinking, Bundy, come back and sit on the tank properly, you know, and she just handles it. She's safe, and if I tell her, if she's standing up on the tank and I need her to lay down, I just yell out, lay down, or sit, and she sits straight away, you know, and she doesn't affect my control of the motorcycle at all. She's, you know, she's safe, she's locked in between my arms, she's harnessed to me.
Very good rider, very good dog. Yeah, it's a good combination.
Tex with his blue heeler following him behind is that quintessential view of an Australian bloke.
Cattle dogs were bred to work with cattle. And you see a few of them work with sheep, but mainly cattle.
For what they've been bred for, they don't come much better than an Australian cattle dog or an Australian stumpy-tailed cattle dog.
They're very smart dog, very energetic, very robust.
As a dog trainer and a dog professional, I have to say that out of any breed in the world, they're probably one of the most brilliantly bred performance-specific dogs I've ever come across.
In the early 1900s, they played around with the breed, they modified the breed, they used different types of dogs, put a bit of dingo in there, a bit of Dalmatian, a bit of blue merle, come up with a cattle dog, and they're exceptionally good at what they do. They're very smart.
You know, in some ways I wish I was around back in those early days when the breed was being developed and met some of the old-time farmers that put a lot of effort into breeding this breed, because I take my hat off to them. They've done an incredible job.
I first met Tex in 1976. He was in the Navy at that time, submarines. The sub was at Coffs Harbour for a few days. Tex was in the pub. I was in the pub. My bike was parked out the front. We got talking. Turns out we had the same sort of bike, exactly the same model, so we've been friends all those years. We've never had an argument. There's a couple of times he's annoyed me that much I'd like to have headbutted him, but we've never actually had an argument, you know, which is strange for a long relationship. But he's an all-round nice guy. I like Tex.
I was determined that 1978 would be my year that I would have a crack at the then Round Australia motorcycle endurance record.
Tex is very well known in motorcycle circles. Back in the 70s, he rode a 750 Honda all the way around Australia non-stop in 6 days and 23 hours, got himself in the Guinness Book of Records.
A pretty rugged country in those days. There was a lot of dirt still on Highway 1. The nullarbor wasn't quite finished. It was still dirt. It certainly wore me out, but it was my naval training taught me to long periods where you're under a lot of stress to stay awake and do what you have to do. You could get away with it in those days. There wasn't fatigue management like there is today. No speed cameras. And you had to sort of log in at each service station. You got fuel, get a stamp, get a signature off the service station operator to say that you were there at that time and continue on. And then I sort of gave up racing, just didn't have the time because I was too busy working with the dog on the bike, and that's where we are today. When I hunted for Bundy, to find a dog that could do what we do, I looked at over 200 dogs, and eventually I found a lady in Mudgee who had bred stumpy tails, and went and had a chat to her, and she said she knew who we were because with my previous dog I'd taken her daughter that had, I think, multiple sclerosis for a drive around Westmead Children's Hospital car park, and went up to Mudgee the very next day, and Bundy picked me basically, and I thought, that's the dog I want. And the lady said to me, which dog would you like? And I said, well, this is the one I like. She said, well, that's the one I would have picked for you. A lot of people ask me how we go about putting Bundy on the bike and training her. Little steps and lots of patience, little steps at a time. Get them used to it. Once they get used to the bike and the noise, then up and down the driveway a few times, and you do a lap of the block. Eventually that lap becomes a lap of Australia.
It's amazing. You'd sort of think that somehow dog's been trained, somehow, or it's been told that this is what you need to do, and it automatically does it.
Although she learnt to ride the bike okay, other parts of her training were lacking. And another friend of mine put me on to Jen, who was a dog behavioural specialist and very, very good at what she does.
I was working as a dog behaviour specialist in Sydney, and I received a very bizarre phone call one day from a gentleman, Tex O'Grady, asking me for assistance to training his dog to ride on a sports bike on the road. At which point my honest opinion was, what an idiot, but I hadn't had anything to do with that, so I thought, well, I'll give him a go and he can come out to see me and we'll see what it's all about. So Tex, in fine Tex O'Grady larrikin style, turned up for his very first appointment with his puppy in a car.
That's not what she wanted. She wanted us to turn up on the bike so she could see what was going on.
My love and passion for animals was developed and nurtured and supported by a father very active in animal welfare and rehab, especially native animals in country New Zealand. The times that I saw the softer side of him was when he was nursing a sick animal back to health, or hand feeding a native parrot, or assisting a lamb that had just been born. I think that I probably saw lambs warming up in our coal stove more often than I saw my mother cooking in it. Bundy had, as a 4-month-old puppy, he had a big history already and had seen far more than most dogs had seen in their lifetime. Had a massive fan base, but absolutely no real training. And from a dog trainer's perspective, I was horrified at her behaviour.
Bundy looked at Jen as the fun police, and Jen looked at Bundy as a bloody hard challenge.
She had to attend my boot camp so we could at least get some sense of correct behaviour for a dog that was going to appear in the public eye. To prep and train Bundy to do what she does, I think my first important thing was to take a step back and watch and observe. Watch and observe what was required of her in her role and see where her failings were in that role and what I could do to improve those. The first 6 months of our relationship was really difficult. She looked at me with absolute loathing and hatred because I expected a level of behaviour and everybody else didn't. My training methods are positive and negative reinforcement, and the negative reinforcement isn't discipline as some people perceive it. It's that Bundy was rewarded for the right behaviour at the right time, and I tend to ignore a lot of the negative behaviour because that goes away with further training. But in order to train her to more complicated tasks and accept the greater world of what she was expected to do, I needed to have what I call in my world a workable relationship. And it is a relationship, it's not master over animal, it's a partnership. I couldn't take Bundy out of her environment and I couldn't control the environment she was in. I had to find ways to get what I needed out of her with clever manipulation and being one step ahead.
It was a battle of the wits there for a long, long time, and I'm sure Jenny wasn't going to back down, and I know Bundy didn't want to back down, but in the end, Jenny won out, so yeah, they've got a healthy respect for each other now. That made a big difference to Bundy as far as sorting out a temperament and getting rid of that puppy stage and bringing her into an adult dog. It's 1,500 hours of training in this dog. It's not just about being on the bike. It's a qualified assistance dog. It's about going to hospitals, doing what she does for charity, a whole lot. The bike's only a small part of it. And now we've got the product we have here now with Bundy, where she's the most gentle dog, great personality, loves her hospital work, loves riding on the bike. If I go for a ride without her, she'll be cranky for a week.
They both love the attention, and that works, because if they didn't, you wouldn't have the team that you have. So, and you can actually see from being involved so closely with them, sometimes I stand back and can actually watch what they're doing and see both of them competing against each other for the attention. I see her trying to muscle him out and he's trying to muscle her out. And they're the kind of things that light my world and make me laugh. For what her fans and her public and her role is, she's perfect.
I haven't been to any of the children's hospitals with him, but I understand, for those sick kids, having Bundy run in and jump up on the bed and lick their face brings a smile to those faces.
Hey, mate. How are you? I'm bad, thanks.
Bundy's job description is to put smiles on dials, bring happiness to people, bring a bit of life into them, and she's very, very good at it. Very, very good at her therapy work. Old people, she'll approach them by the old person's demeanour. If they're well enough to give her a cuddle and stuff, she'll go straight up to them. If they're not, she'll be very, very gentle with them, approach them with due care.
Bundy is a most happy and soothing dog, and lets you know immediately that she's really happy. She makes me happy.
Children, very much the same, especially kids that are terminally ill. She'll go up but she'll go straight to probably where they're hurting the most and just cuddle up to them, and the kids will grab her and just beam up, all that pain, all that trouble, all that drama they're going through is just forgotten about. In that split moment that they're with Bundy, all good. I think it's just the aura of Bundy, and also animals. Animals in general are fantastic in hospital. Bundy's exceptionally good at it, exceptionally good. And with the leather jacket and the goggles on, it just adds that little bit more mystique. And the children love it, they just love it.
Tex and Bundy and Jen work so hard and tirelessly. I mean, it's great. They're great ambassadors to have on board.
They do so much hard work around Australia, raising funds for so many charities.
I mean, how often do you get to see a bike riding down and a dog on the tank? It's not something you see every day.
They did travel 500 kilometres just to support us again.
When Bundy rocked up first off, I was quite surprised actually to see them out here, because I wasn't expecting them to be out here because, they're so important and they're out in the public's eye all the time.
1 in 5 men will have prostate cancer, and that's just too high. And country people seem to be more unaware of prostate cancer than they are in in a city, for example.
Some of the locals didn't understand what it was all about until I explained to them what they were doing and how they were raising money for prostrate. And then it all clicked in then. Oh, I know about them. They were on TV.
And she lays so still, people will come up and say, "Who's your taxidermist? That dog is unreal, like, doesn't move, you know." And I said, "No, she's alive, she's real." And she said, "No." And you lift up her glasses and she's looking at you, you know, just, or an ear will twitch or whatever, and it just blows people away. They just don't believe that a dog can be so still. And others come up and say, "Oh, that dog is so lifelike, where do you buy them from?" I said, "She's alive," you know, like.
Tex has got one of those personalities where everybody seems to like him. Whether it's kids or grandmothers, everybody just seems to like the guy and wants to be around him. And I think the dog is dog version of that as well.
And I think part of her magic is she really does interact with every single person she meets on a truly personal, intimate level. And she seems to be able to impart to them that this isn't, there could be 500 people around, but this is between me and you.
Well, my home base is North Coast, far North Coast of New South Wales, but I'm hardly ever there. I get to sleep in my bed maybe once every fortnight. Bundy's life at home is totally different to what it's like on the bike. When she's at home, she's a normal dog, except she lives inside. She sleeps on the end of my bed, and wherever I go, she goes, because she's my assistance dog.
She can be a really naughty dog at home, like any dog can be. And I can walk outside and find that they've taken a towel off the clothesline like any other dog owner in Australia, and see two dogs playing tug of war with it. And you just, what are you doing?
And then the tongue thing. If she can get you close enough, like you might sit down like this, you might not ever know she's there, and next minute, whack, with the tongue straight in your mouth. She's like the naughty kid that you have over. So I know a different Bundy to the working Bundy.
One day, I think probably my darkest day in animal ownership occurred, where I was outside with all my dogs and animals on our property, doing what we do on a normal day.
I was at work, and she was playing in the backyard of the farm on a back paddock with 6 other dogs.
Chasing rabbits and anything else that popped up. We all made our way down the front of the property, and Bundy had lagged behind, and I called her, and she came down the back laneway at 100 mile an hour, as only a cattle dog can do.
Looked back over her back to see where the other dogs were.
Didn't see a drain and fell into it and flipped over and hit her spine on a lip of a concrete culvert and fractured her spine and ruptured discs, and she was paralysed. She was lying on the ground completely paralysed. The first thing I did is basic first aid of securing her, and sat on the ground with my phone and knew that I had to ring Tex.
Tex was beside himself, absolutely distraught. It's almost, I guess it's like he lost his partner. Yeah.
Tough day, because I knew that this was really bad, and no amount of training could change what had just happened. And I had to tell him. Tex came home in his fine optimistic style, and she'll be okay, it's okay, you're overreacting, and I knew I wasn't.
I could only imagine the day that it actually happened, like, gosh, and what would have been running through your mind, like how to even deal with her on the ground and stuff like that, like to get her in and then get her to the vet.
I didn't take Bundy to a GP vet, I took Bundy straight to the Animal Referral Hospital in Sydney. They performed an MRI and a CAT scan, and he rang me with the news that Bundy had indeed fractured her spine and was paralysed.
And when that accident happened, I thought, I've got this awesome dog that I love so much, and her life's ruined. I'm going to have to put her down.
Tex was devastated, and to see Bundy brought out to visit us when we went to see the specialist, and she was being assisted in walking with a towel holding up her hindquarters, and she had absolutely no feeling.
Bundy's not the sort of dog that would be confined to, say, having a skateboard under her backside to get around.
I'd actually decided that the best thing to do, because Bundy was in the limelight and in the spotlight and had such a public life, that was probably to have Bundy euthanased. I happened to turn on my computer, and a very, very dear, dear friend of mine who was riding around the world to raise awareness to prostate cancer popped up on live chat and said, "Hey Jen, how are you?" And I told him, "Not so good." And Simon's name for me was Super Jen. And he rang me up and he said, "What's going on?" And I told him, and he said, "If anybody can do it, you can do it, Super Jen. I got my faith in you."
And he said, "Look, don't put her down, give her that second chance."
And 3 days later, Simon was killed, 60 kilometres from the finish of his around the world ride.
I thought, how much worse can it get? But I owe Bundy's life to him.
The following 3 days was an extremely worrying time, but more so incredibly overwhelming, because the sheer hundreds and thousands of emails and contact we had, and from people that she really meant something to, but you were unaware, you didn't know. When you get emails from little kids saying, "Dr. David, please don't let Bundy die," and photos of them tormenting their own family pets by putting them on their skateboards and in their bicycle baskets and wanting their own pets to emulate what she does. You don't own that. You definitely have to caretake it, and you have to look after it.
So we opted to settle her down and have her in a crate for whatever time it took.
And Bundy had to be turned every 4 hours around the clock and carried out to the toilet.
That was hours of work every day and in the night. Yeah, a lot of work.
Once her body had recovered from the initial shock of her injury, we were then to start physio. And I found my new best friend. And my new best friend was a Breville electric toothbrush. In a spinal injury such as Bundy's, it's like a big pile up on a motorway. And what you have to do is create a path around the crash site for the traffic to get moving again. So the electric toothbrush became something that I sat on the floor for hours and days and weeks and ran from between her toes up her back legs to get her nerves to talk to her brain again.
You had to even put like fake grass outside and stuff like that.
Walking her over little pieces of stick on the ground so she learnt where her feet were and where to place them. Hours on wobble cushions, getting her balance back. And I'd been told that even if I got Bundy to walk again, she'd never ride a bike again, she would never be able to jump up on the lounge. I was to never let her walk up and down stairs.
Bundy now is probably about 98% well and walks a little bit with a crooked leg at times, but to watch her play around with the ball, you would never know she'd had a broken back.
I truly believe that part of Bundy's recovery is that she had a highly sense a high sense and a high development of her balance from riding a motorcycle. And I really believe that had she not had that, her rehab would have been vastly different.
But she told me when she wanted to go back on the bike by coming down to the garage one day when I was working on my bike. I'd got up out of the chair, she'd jumped up onto the chair, and then from that onto the bike. And I said, you want to go for a ride, don't you? And she just looked at me and we put a gear on. I took her for a ride and she never looked back.
I think that's the day when Tex and I really did realise how important this dog was, and that we were only caretakers in her role on her bike and motorcycling and in the charity world and what she means to people. Even as a professional in my chosen field, I think that my involvement with Tex and Bundy in particular has probably taught me more about human-animal interaction than anything I've ever come across, and how truly personal that relationship is. So I'm very grateful to that dog for letting me into her world.
Will there be another dog after Bundy? I think there will be. I think there'll definitely be another cattle dog, another stumpy tail, no question about that. But I'd like to do it when Bundy's still, even though she may be too old to go on the bike or too, getting to that point, I'd like Bundy to help me train the next dog, because if I can get Bundy's temperament sort of passed over to the other dog by Bundy teaching her a few good things, I think I'd end up with another really good dog. But Bundy would certainly not be pushed to the side. She's one special dog, and she'll be spoiled till the day she's no longer with us. So.